looking for adventure and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, gonna make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace and fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. I like smoking lightning, heavy metal thunder, racing with the wind, and the feeling that I'm under. Yeah, darling, gonna make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we were born to be wild. We could climb so high, I'm never gonna die. Born to be wild. Born to be wild. Get your phone running, head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, gonna make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode in space. Like a true nature's child, we were born to be wild. We can climb so high, I'm never gonna die. Born to be wild. Born to be wild.
Oh, man, let's give it up for these guys. They just crushed that. Well done. Well, hey, my name's Kevin Valentine. I'm the lead pastor of Kensington here. And how are you guys doing today? Yes, we did that song. We are celebrating some very incredible graduates today, and we are hoping that they are not born to be wild, but they are heading out on the highway into a new part of their life, and we're excited about that. Hey, if you are new here, let me be the first to welcome you to Kensington. For those of you joining us online for the first time, hello. Thank you for joining us. If you would like some information about where we're going, what we are, what we're doing, and where we're going, who we are, I would love for you to text the word "new" to this very special number. This is a big number here at Kensington, 407-278-7291. And we'll get you a little bit of information of what's coming up, some of which I'm about to tell you. First off, on Tuesday the 30th, at 10 a.m. in the break room, we have a women's coffee that's coming up where we just got all of our women. You are welcome to come and hang out in our women's ministry coffee date. It's a fantastic way to get to meet some of the other ladies here. Some of the most incredible women that I know in this area will be there, and I would love for you to jump in and check them out and get to know some new people and spend some time together. And then secondly, if you are a student, if you're entering into 8th grade, entering into high school, we have an entire summer calendar full of events between summer camps and events that are going on. We would love for you to jump in and get to know some other students if you never have, but also be a part of just hanging out over the summer and having some cool stuff to do. And you can find out those events at kensingtonorlando.org/events and find out all the information that's available for there. And also for the women's ministry coffee date, same thing. KensingtonOrlando.org/events, and you can sign up and register for that there. Now, we want to, before we move on with our service, we would like to do what we call the Kensington Crunch. And that is, we'd love for you to stand up, say hello to some people near you, crunch into the middle, leave some room on the aisles for people walking in late. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll be right back.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. So excited to be here with you guys this morning. My name is Clint. I am the family pastor here at Kensington, and I get the honor of celebrating some awesome individuals this morning. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to spend a few minutes just highlighting each person on stage and just all that they've accomplished and who they are. And we have a gift for them as a church. We have a Bible and a devotional for them for their next phase of life. And then Kevin's going to come up and give some parting thoughts for our graduates, and then pray over them and pray over the parents as well. So we're excited to celebrate. So we're going to dive right in. And up first, I have Eva Dubasek here. You guys can give her a round of applause. Yep. So Eva is graduating with her ACE diploma from Windermere High School, where she spent 4 years as the varsity lacrosse goalie. She was All-Metro Student Athlete of the Month and received the Pursuit of Excellence Award in her senior year. So basically, she's a baller. In the fall, she is heading to Gainesville, where she's going to complete her AA at Santa Fe and pursue environmental science degree at the University of Florida, where she plans to apply her studies to environmental and wildlife conservation. She's going to save the planet for all of us, basically. So that's Eva. Thank you, guys.
Here you go.
Up next, I have my guy Noah Medeiros here. Noah. So Noah is graduating from West Orange High School, and his postgraduate plans are he's planning on joining the Army. So you guys give it up for Army. He is hoping to get into cybersecurity while he's in the Army, so he's plans on what he wants to specialize there. I've gotten to know Noah here over the last couple years. He's joined Edge, and it's been awesome to just kind of see him grow. And he beat me in basketball one time. It's like his crowning achievement of his high school career. But no, Noah has been one of our leaders in Breakaway. He's been faithfully serving over the last couple years with our middle school students, and being somebody who they can look up to and talk to about faith. And so we're excited to see him move on to what God has next for him. So, all right. Next up, I have my guy Nathan Valentine here. So Nathan is graduating from West Orange High School. He has overcome a ton of obstacles throughout his life. God has definitely had his hand on him. Nathan has undergone surgeries and hospitalizations, numerous ER visits and procedures. Before he was born, doctors said that he would not have a quality of life, that he may be blind, wheelchair-bound, and remain the mental age of a 1-year-old. But by God's miraculous power and grace, Nathan is graduating high school. He is currently working at Pammy's Sammy's downtown, so you guys can go hit him up for a sandwich. And next year, he's going to be at UCF for a work-study internship called Post High Plus. He plans to pursue his passion of creating and producing music on the side. And Nathan, again, Nathan's been here since I've been here. I got to see Nathan go all the way through high school. It's been awesome to get to develop that relationship with him and just see his passion. He's done a ton of stuff, been to all kinds of serve projects, and has grown up here in this church, and so we're excited to see what God's going to do next in his life. So, and last but certainly not least, I have Bethany Marsden here. So Bethany is graduating from Ocoee High School, where she has also been in the ACE program throughout and is graduating the top 20% of her class. She loves fashion and musical theater and has been involved in a drama group since 3rd grade, and like the good kind of drama group, not like the bad drama. She has been an integral part of what we do in our high school or in our middle school ministries. It's been great. Bethany, I've also seen her go from ninth grade to now graduation. It's been great to be part of her life and see her grow. When I first came here, we played a game and she just shook her head no at me. Like she wouldn't even like sit. And now like she has grown in leadership. She consistently stepped out of her comfort zone and following after Jesus and has been leading in our breakaway ministries over the last couple years here and helping out at camps and doing all kinds of stuff. And so we're super excited for her and her plans after high school. She's planning on working and attending Valencia and just seeing where God leads her from there. And so we're very excited to see what God does.
All right. Having spent 15 years doing student ministries before we moved down here to launch this church, I've been through a whole lot of these ceremonies, and there's a few thoughts I'd just like to share with you to just get you thinking about kind of this next chapter of your life. The decisions that you make over the next 5 years are going to be the decisions that 20, 30 years from now, you look back and you have some understanding as to how you got there. Like you are stepping out from under the protective wings of your parents and you're starting to fly on your own. And basically you're entering the choose your own adventure part of your life. And so with that being the case, I've got a couple of thoughts for you guys. And the first is this. It's something that I've taught for many, many years to students and adults. But it's this. It's show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Now here's what's so interesting about this is as you take this next step in your life, where you go to college, what career you have, what job you end up is not as important as the people that you choose to surround you with. They will have a larger part in shaping the way that you think, the way that you deal with the adversity that life is going to bring, and the way that you move through your future. More so than the school and the career and that kind of stuff. So it's important that you have at least a friend or two that knows Jesus and is following him in your circle of influence. Because your faith is about to be tested in ways that it hasn't been before. And you will need a friend or two that loves Jesus and knows Jesus and will come alongside you and help you be strong. So that's just a thought for the next few years of your life. Then the second one is you are opening up a new chapter of your life. You're closing this one and you're opening up a new one. And none of us know where that chapter leads to. We don't know where you're going to end up. We don't know if you're going to fulfill the dreams that you have for your life right now. We don't know if you're going to exceed the dreams that you have, or you're going to fall short of those dreams. And with that, because we don't know what's coming, there's a lot of worry and stress that comes with your future. Trust your parents have been worrying and stressing about your future longer than you have. But here is what you need to know. While none of us know what's coming in your life and what your future holds, God does. In fact, he's already there, and he already knows. And so when you enter those times of stress and worry, and you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, and you don't know who to turn to, I just want to encourage you to turn to God, who knows your future. In fact, I want to share with you a verse that when I was your age, right around your age, 17, 18, 19, became a life verse of mine because I desperately needed it to be true. And I look back over the last 12 years since I graduated high school, 15 years. I look back over the last 3 decades, and I know this verse to be true, and it's Jeremiah 29:11. And it's God saying, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." And I hope that that verse might go ahead of you and before you as you step into this next chapter. Because none of us know where you're going or what's going to happen in your life, but God does. And his plans are to prosper you, to give you hope and future. That doesn't mean that things are always going to go your way, right? But that does mean at the end of the story, there's prosperity, there's hope, and a future that you can be proud of because God knows why he created you and the mission that he's placed you on this planet for. So I want to pray over these guys. But first, I would love to have family members and close friends of the 4 that are on this stage to please stand. Would you please stand? And anyone, like I know your graduate might not be on this stage, would you stand up as well and represent them in this prayer for their future? All right. First off, for you parents that are standing, well done. You got to this day. I know you didn't think it would happen, but you made it. Good work. And I just want to pray over all of you and just ask God's blessing on this next step. So let's pray. God, thank you so much for the 4 graduates who are standing on this stage. And Lord, we are so grateful that you know what's next. We're so grateful that you have their steps planned, that you have their future securely in your hand. And so, Lord, as those of us who are standing, and those who are on the stage, Lord, as worry creeps in and anxiety over the future happens and we hit difficulties and stumbling blocks, Lord, I pray that you would just bring a sense of peace and blessing as you place your hand upon these graduates. Lord, would you be a fire by night and a cloud by day, guiding them to the next destination you have on their plan on your plan for their life. God, may they hear your voice on a regular basis. Surround them, Lord, with friendships that will continually point them up into you. Lord, help them make choices in their life using the wisdom that they have learned through your word being taught to them through Edge and through Sunday mornings and through the opportunities they've had here to understand who you are and what you have written. Lord, I pray for the parents and friends of these graduates. Lord, would you fill them with wisdom and discernment as they speak into the lives of their loved ones. God, would you give them just an ability to be present in the moments that they get to share. Help them see their son or daughter or niece or nephew or friend through your eyes with the love that you have for them, God. And I just pray that you would bless these families as they step into this next chapter of their life. In your holy name, amen. Hey, let's give all these people a big hand. Well done, you guys.
Awesome. Isabel, can I ask you a favor?
Yeah.
Can you get my Bible out of my backpack? I forgot it.
Yes.
Thanks. It's like pretty crucial to like have it, you know, when you're preaching. If you're not preaching from the Bible. Like I said, I'm super excited to be with you this morning. What an awesome moment. I love getting to have this service each and every year. And one of the things I love the most about it, thank you so much. One of the things I love about it the most is just getting to see the legacy. Like a lot of these students have grown up in this church. I mean, I've done this 3 times now, and literally gotten to like see kids up on this stage, see students up on this stage. They don't like it when you call them kids. Up on this stage that were in the K-Kids program, and like had their faith developed here, and then like launched into life from here, and getting to still kind of walk with them in college. And it's such a privilege and honor, and I love it. And I look at those seniors, and if you're a parent of the seniors, you're gonna like super identify with this. But I look at our seniors, and I just think like, man, how fast does time move by, right? It really does. It seems so fast. Like there are years where it seems like impossibly slow. But as you stand up there and you see these students and what they've accomplished and how far they've grown, even just in the time that I've known them. Again, like Bethany and Nathan, I've gotten to walk with since I've been here. So I've seen them go all the way through high school and even know over the last couple of years. And Eva, like just getting to see them like grow and change, and how they're following the Lord. And like, it's crazy how fast it all goes by. And I think about this with my own daughter as well. I'm not excluded from this. I have a daughter who's 6 years old, and I want to show you guys some pictures, not to take a shine away from anybody else, but this is Callie right here on her first birthday. That's my little girl. Yeah, she's the cutest thing that ever existed. And then this is her. This next one is her. That's almost 4 years ago, when we almost, like, right after we got here. My family and I moved to Orlando. We're coming up on 4 years. Like next week will be 4 years since we've been here at Kensington. This was her in June of that 2019 year. And at that point in life, she could talk pretty well. She had a lot of spunk and attitude. She loved Bubble Guppies and Moana. She had never been to Disney yet, except for Disney Springs. We told her that was Disney because we were too poor for Disney. She loved watching the dolphins at SeaWorld, though. We could afford SeaWorld. She was a pretty good eater and loved to wrestle with dad and snuggle with mom. She couldn't read. She only kind of knew some numbers and letters. And she couldn't really run or be trusted with a cup that didn't have a lid. She looked like those white people in infomercials that's just like, like just always spilled. And this is Callie from this past Easter. She's 6 now, and she's about to be done with her kindergarten year. And she literally just this last week lost her first tooth. She likes LOL dolls and Build-A-Bear. She loves watching Ryan videos and Star Wars with me. She has a mean right hook and knows how to use nunchucks thanks to a year of Taekwondo. She is reading books on her own. She's solving math equations, and she asks really good questions about science and language like all the time. She can write sentences. She loves Disney, and she has even confessed to having a crush on a boy this year. Yeah, I thought I was going to hit a 6-year-old. No, I'm just kidding. It's not how I handle those things. She thinks that she is the boss of any room that she walks in, and she hates it when anyone doesn't follow the rules, and she still loves to snuggle mom and fight with dad. And that's just like 4 years. Like in the moment, it seems like forever, but it's gone by like that. And like even with all this time that has passed, I can still remember just holding her just like this, with her little head in my hand, all swaddled up, right? I can remember that like it was yesterday. Like I can take myself to that moment. And I remember her first breath. Like I remember when she was born and she took her first breath, and like what a crazy moment that is, because you're just never sure. And I remember rocking her to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm not sure how I'm still awake. And I have truly learned what many people try to tell me. And I heard this so many times as a young parent, and I was always just like, yeah, no, you don't understand though, I hate this. But everybody's like, look, enjoy every moment because it goes by so fast. And when it comes to parenting, it's very true. And the truth is, time is short and responsibility is really high. Time is short and responsibility is high. The parenting is hard and emotional, and there's a lot at stake. I get it. Look, some days feel like they just won't end. Like, when do you go to sleep? Because I am tired of this, right? Like, they just feel like they are dragging on. And some days you hope and pray that God will make the sun stand still for a little while just so that you can soak up that moment a little bit longer, right? And parenting is existing in both of those moments at the same time. Like, it is holding the tension of both of those. I want to give you guys some numbers this morning that for me are incredibly motivating, terrifying, and sad all at the same time. Moms, beware, get your tissues ready. This is, my wife never lets me talk about this at home, so I'm going to talk about it from stage. The first number I have for you is 936. That's about how many weeks you have from the time your child is born until they turn 18. That's it. 936, and then they're probably off to their next adventure. We use a lot of Orange here at this church as a family ministry site, and they recommend when your child is born getting a jar and putting 936 marbles in it and taking one out after each week. And what that represents is, and then you pray over it, like when you take it out, right? Because the truth is, once that week is over, it's gone. You can't get it back. Like, I'll never hold my little girl again like I did when she was a newborn. Like, physically, I can't. She's getting huge, right? But, like, that's gone. I'll never toss her in the air again like I did when she was 3. Because, again, I work out, but, And one day, she won't want to dance and sing with me like she does right now. This week, according to my Parent Q app, because I use this, like it's not just like promoting material, like this is what I use. According to my Parent Q app, I only have 635 weeks until Callie graduates. About a third of my time with her is done. We have a finite amount of time with our kids. Next number I have for us is 90%. According to Don Felker and Tim Urban of Insider, once our kid turns 18, we have spent about 90% of the time with them that we will in their lifetime. Some of you right now are crying. Some of you are fighting the urge to like go run and hug your kid or grab them out of K-Kids. And maybe a couple of you are just like, thank God, like, whew, that's almost done with. But for the students in the room, I hope this sinks in for you as well, is you have a finite amount of time with your family. And again, maybe you're thinking, thank God, can't wait to get out of here. But like, trust me, you will look back on it and miss it. Our time with our kids and our parents is short, it's finite. It can feel like we have forever and there's always tomorrow. But the sobering truth is there isn't forever, and one day tomorrow won't be there because you'll live in different cities and have jobs and families. And as a parent, but also somebody who spends a lot of time in the lives of other people's kids, I'm always wrestling with, what do I do with that time? Because, like, yes, I have a kid, and so, like, I'm a parent, but I also have the unique perspective of I spent a lot of time in kids' lives without a parent, like, without being a parent. That's what pretty much my whole career has been dedicated to. I've been in youth ministry now for 14 years. So I spent a lot of time with other people's kids without necessarily having a vested interest in, like, what they do when they go to college, you know, like. And so I always wrestle with, what do I do with the time that I have with these students? What do I do with the time that I have with these kids? What's most important, right? Like, as a dad, what do I give my daughter that will help her become the best version of herself? How can I impact the kids around me so that they can be the best version of themselves? Like, when I do high school ministry, like Edge, we meet every week on Wednesday night. I have an hour and a half. What can I do in an hour and a half to, like, really impact the kids around me? That's the question that I wrestle with a lot. And if you're here this morning and you're on this parenting journey, maybe you have also wrestled with that question of, like, man, what do I do with the time that I have? I believe this morning God has some answers for us in His Word. And if you're here today and your kids are grown, or maybe you have grandkids, can I just tell you, it's never too late. Like, I know I pulled out the numbers and I pulled out the stats, but it's never too late. And you never stop being a parent. Like, your 30-year-old still needs their mom and their dad, right? And you too still have something to give your kids and your grandkids. And if you're here this morning and you don't have any kids and you're just thinking, like, man, this is really like a family matter, like, I don't know, like, you still have a really important role in all of this. Because you have kids. God has placed kids around you. God has placed students in your sphere of influence. Whether it's nieces and nephews. I mean, you're at a church, so we have, like, kids ministries here. Like, God has placed kids around you, and He wants you to play a role in their life. It's true that it really does take a village. And I believe this, every kid should have 3 to 5 trusted adults outside of their parents to speak into their lives. So you play a really important role now, or you will have one coming up. And so the question I want all of us to wrestle with this morning is, how do we make the most of the time with our kids, no matter what stage they're at? And how do we, without kids, leverage what we have to positively influence the kids in our lives? And for our students in the room, how do you make the most of the time that you have with your parents? And so the first part of this answer, we're going to go to Luke chapter 12 this morning, and then we'll look at Matthew chapter 6 after that. So in Luke chapter 12, I just kind of want to set up where we're going. There's an argument going on. There's these 2 kids, and they come to Jesus. They're probably young adults. And they come to Jesus and they're like arguing over inheritance. Who should get what? Hey, our parents are gone. I'm the firstborn. I think I should get all that. How should we split this up? Jesus, you tell us. You're the smart teacher. You know everything. How are we supposed to split up all of the inheritance? And in typical Jesus fashion, He doesn't just give them like a yes or no answer. He actually responds to them with a story, right? Tells them a parable. And so we're going to pick up in Luke 12, verses 16. We're going to read through 21. And so this is how Jesus answers them. Verse 16, then He told him a story. A rich man had a fertile farm that produced fine crops. He said to himself, what should I do? I don't have room for all my crops. Then he said, I know. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll have enough room to store all my wheat and other goods. And I'll sit back and say to myself, my friend, you have enough stored away for years to come. Now take it easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, you will die this very night. Then who will get everything you worked for? Verse 21, yes, a person is a fool to stir up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God. When I think about what do I do with the time that I have, and I have my child on my mind goes into a lot of different places, right? Like, hey, I need to provide for my kid. And, you know, if I'm really awesome, I'll store some away so that when I'm gone, she'll be taken care of, right? Like I want to financially take care of my child. I need to teach her and give her all the wisdom that I have, which is not a lot, but I got to give her what I do have, right? Like I got to tell her these wise sayings, right? I need to make sure she's loved, right? I need to give her my time and my presence and just be there with her and for her, right? And all of these things are great. And they're all part of parenting. But here's the truth. Even if we store up all of this stuff, and we got big barns, and we give our kids all these things, eventually, we'll be gone. And that stuff will fade. I think about this sometimes, man, in like a couple generations, nobody will even know my name. Right? And so, like, what can I give her that's gonna last? Like, what can I give my child that's going to not just affect her, but affect, her kids one day and on down the line? And so for that answer, we're going to turn to Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 21. This is what it says. Don't store up treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven where moths and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, the desires of your heart will be also. And like this verse is mostly about money, but I think it's got a very important point in here for us this morning. Like I said, all those parenting things are good, but what can we do that's going to stand the test of time? What we can do is we can build in our children a legacy of faith. And that is something that time cannot destroy, and it's eternally significant. I have another stat for you guys. According to Barna, 64% of Christians chose Jesus before the age of 18. So they did a big poll of people who were professing Christians, and they just asked them, like, hey, when was it that you made that choice? 64% of them, overwhelming majority, said it was before the ages of 18. Now, God can do anything, but, like, it's a really important age, right? And so what that tells me is that we have an opportunity to leverage our faith in the lives of our kids in this precious short window and give them the best thing that we could ever give them. The one thing that's going to last them, the one thing that's going to set them up for success no matter what path they take, and that is a faith in Jesus. That is the best thing that we could ever do for anybody, especially our kids. I spent more time in my life without a child than with one, right? Like my daughter's only 7, so I spent a lot of time in my life without a child. And I got to tell you, you too can help build a legacy of faith. Like I said, God's put students and kids around you that God wants you to influence. Some of our high schoolers that are graduating have literally spent the last 2 years influencing middle schoolers. Those high school students are helping build a legacy of faith in a younger student. So if you're here and you're like, I don't have any kids, like you too can be a part of this. And God's calling you to be a part of this. And he's been calling his people to do this since the days of Moses, right? We're going to turn to Deuteronomy 6 here in a second, but I want to kind of give you some background. So when Deuteronomy was written, this is an Old Testament book. This is like one of the first 5 books here. And at this point, Israel, the nation of Israel, is a very young nation. And God has said, he's taken them out of Egypt. Moses did the whole parting of the sea. That's all been done, all right? And now they are on the precipice. They are on the edge of going into this promised place. God has been promising them for years and years. I have a place prepared for you. I'm going to bless you guys. I'm going to make you into a great nation. This land is going to be amazing. It's going to be all yours. I got you. And then they were a little bit scared, so they had to wander around for 40 years in the desert until a whole generation of people died off, right? And that has happened. They're all this whole generation of people that refuse to enter into God's promise has died off. And God's like, all right, you're ready. And so here's Moses, the great leader. He's actually not going to get to go in because of a decision he made during that 40 years. But he wants to set his people up for success. And so they write this book of Deuteronomy, basically saying like, hey, God's prepared this place for you, but if you want to take a hold of all the promises that God has for you, if you want to bless your families, if you want to bless your kids, if you want to be prosperous in this place that God is calling you to, here's how you do it, right? And so he writes the book of Deuteronomy. And we're going to turn to chapter 6, all the way down to verse, it's going to start right at verse 1 through 9. Chapter 6, verses 1 through 9. So this is what Moses writes. He says, these are the commands, decrees, and regulations that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you. So Moses is like, hey, God told me to tell you, right? You must obey them in the land, and you are about to enter and occupy. And you and your children and grandchildren must fear the Lord your God as long as you live. So he's like, hey, y'all know the commands. Make sure you follow them, right? Everybody, you, your kids, your grandkids, everybody got to follow it. He says, if you obey all your Lord, your God, as long as you live, if you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. So there's a promise right there. You want to live long and prosper? You obey God's commands, right? Verse 3, listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. So these are some significant promises that Moses is making. Verse 4, listen, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord alone. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands I am giving you today. Verse 7, repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you are at home and when you are on the road, when you are going to bed and when you are getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your foreheads as a reminder. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Moses lays out the promises. Hey, God's going to make this thing awesome. But you have got to do it his way. And you need to make sure not just you know, but your children and your children's children. It needs to be woven into the very fabric of your home. It should be like it's written on your hand. There are actually some people who put little boxes on their head with scripture in it. Like that's a part of some Jewish belief. They take that very literally, right? But like God is calling this. And here's the truth for you this morning. And I don't know if you know this, but God has a plan to prosper you and your family. Sometimes it don't feel like it, but he does have a plan to prosper you and your family and your kids. This is what God's promised land looks like nowadays. You want a loving family? You want wise kids? You want peace in your home? You want purpose in your life, purpose in your kids' lives? Like all those things that we desperately want for ourselves and for our families, you want all that? That's God's promised it to you. He said, I'll bless you. I will bring you into this place that I have prepared for you. But it starts with God and his word. Period. We do it his way. And it's something that he expects families and communities to do. This wasn't just a command to parents, it was a command to the whole community, right? Nobody was excluded because everybody needed to follow God's laws. And so if we want to enter into what God's promising us and promising Kensington, like we got some work to do. And as parents, we are the primary disciplers of our kids. Parents, you are the primary disciple makers of your kids. Not me. It's not Kevin. It's not Orange Curriculum. It's you. And listen, can I be honest with you guys? As a pastor, it scares me. Okay? Like, I am terrified of that statement. I'm scared I'm going to mess my daughter up, right? Like, what if I work in the church and she grows up and hates the church? Like, that's like my biggest, what if it happens, So, like, I'm scared too, okay? But it's true. The influence that we have because of the relationship that we have makes us the most important spiritual figure in the lives of our kids. And we have to take advantage of the time and the moments that we have. So how do we do that? How do we make the most of our time? How do we take them to sports and clubs and work and keep the house and disciple them all at the same time? What do I do if my kids are grown? What if I feel like I missed this already? And what am I supposed to do if I don't have kids? Well, I got a few things that I think we can all start to do that can impact your own kids and then the kids that God has put around you. So the first thing we need to do is have spiritual conversations. Have spiritual conversations. Deuteronomy 6 verse 7 said, hey, talk about it when you get up in the morning, when you go to bed, when you're on the car ride to school, when you're on the car ride to your sports. Like, talk about it all the time. Make it a normal part of everything that you do. Talk about it at dinner. Talk about it at breakfast. Talk about it on Christmas morning. Talk about it on your family vacation over summer. Talk about it when you're at the beach, right? Like if I can contextualize Moses, he's like, hey, wherever you go, talk about this thing. Talk about what God's done. Talk about who he is, right? Have spiritual conversations. And here's the truth. I know we all get like a little bit intimidated because we're like, well, I read the Bible like once, man, and I didn't read all of it. Like, I don't know. I'm not a biblical scholar. I don't know all the things. You don't need to have all the answers. Friends, you don't need to have all the answers. It's okay. If your kid asks you, well, if God made this, then why this? And you're just like, oh my gosh, I've been wondering that too. I can't tell him. I don't know. I have no idea. It's okay. You can be like, I don't know. That's a great question, right? Like, validate their question. You know what? That's super intuitive and really smart. I didn't even know you could ask a question like that yet. But like, I also don't know the answer to that, right? And so then where you go from that? Hey, why don't y'all find it together? Like, we all know that Google exists, right? Like, Google's just as good as a pastor nowadays. I'm just like, honestly, ChatGPT could put me out of a job. Like, y'all could go to Google and find the answers together. Read from multiple sites and figure it out as a family. And take them on the journey, right? Take them on the journey here. And don't leave them behind, right? Don't think you have to have it all put together. Man, when you're at home, pray together. Out loud. I know it's scary. I know some of y'all don't like to pray out loud. But like, have a conversation with Jesus as a family and like say the words out loud together. Your kids should know your life is built on Jesus even if you never attend church. That's the kind of faith that you should be living in front of your kids. If your kids are grown and this is not something you did, start now. Like, you don't need to teach grown kids, or you don't need to correct them. Because I think that's like, sometimes if we feel like we missed on something, as parents, we'll tend to like try and like, well, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm 25. Like, you can't come at me with this now, And so like, there creates this tension. We don't need to do that. That's okay. But tell them, inform them of your journey, and invite them along with you in conversation. Say, hey, I was at church the other day, and the pastor said this thing, and it really struck a chord with me. And I just feel like God's been speaking this in my life. That is as simple as that. Have spiritual conversations. If you don't have kids, the ones that you know that are in your sphere of influence, like, don't just go up to a random kid with like candy and be weird. But like, if you have kids in your influence, then talk to them about what God's doing in your life. Like, this is a big part of what I do. I tell my leaders, lead in discipleship. Like, as you're growing with Jesus, then the kids that you have relationships with, tell them and bring them on the journey with you. Wow, man, God just blessed me with this new job. I've been praying for months, and I didn't know it was going to happen, and he just came through, and I didn't even see this job coming. I thought it was going to be another thing, but God blessed me with this, and I'm just like, I'm blown away. And then I started thinking about this verse that I read, right? And you have that conversation with a kid or a student. It might not like blow the roof off their doors immediately. They're not going to be like, oh, you are such a great follower of Jesus. But like, what it's going to do is later on when they come across a situation like that, they're going to think, yeah, you know what? I don't know what to do, and I think God wants me to go this direction, but I'm not sure. Oh, what should I do here? Oh, well, David told me he prayed, and he prayed for a long time, and then God just kind of came through. So maybe I can try that. It's one of the reasons I want high schoolers in our middle school ministry. Like, I'm old to middle schoolers. I know some of y'all are like, you look so young and handsome, thank you. But like, to middle schoolers, they think I roamed with the dinosaurs. That's what they think, right? They see one gray hair, and all of a sudden you're ancient. Like, And so middle schoolers think I'm old. So if I get up and teach in middle school, sometimes it's hard for them to think like, oh, I could be like Mr. Clint one day because I'm so far away from where they're at. But when they talk with a high schooler who's going through normal high school stuff, who's literally been where they were at like 2 years ago, and they see how this high schooler navigates life and faith in the small group setting, and they have these spiritual conversations, now all of a sudden they have a template for what it looks like to go through some stuff as a high schooler. It's so important. Man, normalize Jesus in your house with your kids. Talk about your faith. Talk about your walk. Where have you seen God lately? How has God challenged you? What prayers have been answered? What have you learned? What questions or issues are you wrestling with? It's okay to talk about questions with your kids and wrestle with that stuff together, right? For my family, this typically happens around meal times. We're a big, we sit down and eat dinner together most nights. And so either during the meal or sometimes after the meal, sometimes we just be hungry and everybody's consuming their food and then all of a sudden dinner's done. And it's like, oh, we didn't have any conversations. So sometimes it's a little bit after dinner, right? But that's what it looks like for my family. For me and my dad, as I was stepping into my journey as a pastor and really starting to learn things and diving into the Bible, I would just come in sometimes at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, just a random time of the day, and he'd be sitting down at the kitchen table, and sometimes he would have a question. Hey, son, I was thinking about this thing the other day. I was reading the Bible, and I was wondering what it means. And so we would just sit down and talk about what we thought based on what we knew about God. We actually, it became this thing that happened normally. It was not planned, but it would just happen fairly often. And we called it kitchen theology. We would just discuss God and we would come up with all the solutions to the problems in the world, and that was just a thing that we did. And it happened organically. It wasn't something that we planned to do, but we talked about it. So have spiritual conversations with your kids. Second thing is to be in spiritual community. Get your kids in spiritual community. We have an incredible family ministry, and yes, I'm going to hype myself up. But no, we have an amazing team here. We have people on this campus right now, across from where we're at, teaching your kids truths about Jesus. We have adults who are loving them and investing in them. We have volunteers who selflessly give up whole Sundays because we don't have 2 services. They'll sit and be with your kids for an entire Sunday morning, miss out on church service so that they can invest in what your kid's doing. They're surrounded by other kids who are going through similar journeys. We have our middle schoolers were in here actually earlier to celebrate some of their high school leaders, but we have a middle school pastor who's giving a message just like I am to your middle school students, and then they're going into small group and they're talking about life and how that message applies to them. On a Wednesday night, we're doing the same thing. I'm preaching a message just like I am this morning on a Wednesday night to your high school students about things that matter to them, and then we're breaking down in a small group and talking about how it plays itself out in life. And they are together with other people and believers who are on this same path and the same journey. Man, it's these communities that help expand and shape our faith journeys. I learned so much from being a part of a youth group. I found so much support from being around other students that was going through the same stuff I was. And the other cool thing about this is as parents, sometimes we feel like we are all alone in this journey. It can often feel like that. But being part of a spiritual community, you don't have to be alone anymore. You don't have to walk through this journey alone. I can't tell you how many parents I've sat with over the years and just talked about life or parenting or their kids or whatever. Or one of my favorite people, one of my best volunteers, Susan, she has been volunteering in student ministry now for 8 or 9 years at Kensington. She is literally part of some people's families. It's like mom, dad, and then Susan. You know what I'm saying? We had college students come back, and 4 or 5 of them hit Susan up, hey, let's go get lunch, and nobody's parents even knew, right? She just, because college students, they don't say anything, but also that's just, they have that relationship. You can have other adults come alongside you. You don't have to do it alone. And if you don't have kids, this is where you can really, really step up. Or if you have grown kids, this is where you can really, really step up. Susan's son, Joey, he graduated a couple years ago. She's still helping build legacies of faith in other people's kids. It's important to be in spiritual community. And it's important to be at church. It's important to have this be part of your life rhythm. One of my favorite things in the world, my daughter 2 weeks ago came up to me and she said, Dad, I want to be baptized. And I was just like, what? And we have not talked about baptism in my home. She wanted to be baptized not because we talked about it, but because she watched other people do it. We had right out front celebrated some people making that choice. And she saw that because she's part of a faith community. She witnessed that and said, I want that. I want what they got, right? And I started asking her questions, and she's answering them. She's answering questions. She's answering spiritual questions that I didn't even know she had language for. They've been doing some awesome stuff in there, all right, in K-Kids. Like, my daughter knows, like, who Jesus is. She's confessed a faith in Jesus, and I was just, like, blown away. She's got more scripture memorized than I do. Like, it's important to be part of a spiritual community because we have a fantastic team of people that love her. And this is why we're building the kind of property that we're going to build. Like, our vision for the future of this church is to build a place where families can come and be invested and have a home and a spiritual community to grow up in around sports and have a preschool and all that stuff. Like, we want to desperately reach the next generation. When I was an 8th grader, my dad started making my brother and I go to church. Brentwood Assembly of God, shout out. I didn't even believe God existed at the time, right? And I didn't really like my dad. But God used that church to start my journey of faith. My foundation was built at that church, all because my dad was brave enough to make me go. I didn't even like it at the time, but it is important for your kids to be in spiritual community. And if your kids are grown or you don't have any, it's important for you to be in spiritual community with other believers. And you can also step up and serve in our family ministry, especially over the summer, right? People travel. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to care, and we'll train you to do the rest. But you can be a part of the village. Some important people in my life at Brentwood Assembly, Brother Vernon Cobb. He was, I think, 93 when I started going there. Passed away at the age of like 98, 99. And every single year, Brother Vernon Cobb would sponsor 3 students to go to camp. He didn't volunteer in student ministry. He couldn't even be there every week because with age, he had to take care of himself. But he cared about the next generation, and every year he would put up money so that 3 students could go to camp. Brother Vernon Cobb, I'll never forget his name. We used to sing his favorite worship song when he would come in service just because we all loved him that much. Mr. Josh, not the main youth pastor, just the volunteer, ran my small group, ex-military, working to get his nursing degree. That dude spoke into my life and gave me courage to tackle situations that I didn't currently have the courage to tackle. Or I think about, for my daughter, Emily Curnow, who's graduated, spent a lot of time in pre-K with my little girl. Or Bridget Jediku, or Laura Hedrick, or Melissa Valentine, who are like investing in my kid and like loving her and teaching her the answers to questions I didn't even know she was asking. It's important to be in spiritual community. And then finally is don't wait. Don't wait. 936 for those of you with newborns. 635 left for me. Don't wait one more week to start building a legacy in your kids that will last. Don't wait to start talking about faith or reading a Bible story together or listening to a worship song together. Even if it's weird, even if they look at you and raise the eyebrow, what are you doing? We don't do this in our house. Just start doing it. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if there's resistance. I mean, don't pin them down to the ground, be like, we're going to read the Bible. But just do it. If your kids are grown, don't let any more time go by. Engage them spiritually. Again, even if they look at you funny. I'm 30, why are we doing this? God has a promised land for you and your family, and let's move towards it. And if you're here today and you've not made the decision to follow Jesus, my question for you is, what's stopping you? Is there anything from preventing you from saying yes to all that God has for you? This same promised land is available to you. The blessing, the healing he has for you and your family. And if there's anything stopping you, if there's a question, if there's something you can't quite move past, come talk with me. Let's work it out. I'm available after service. But if you're ready today to cross the line of faith, I want to lead you in a prayer this morning. And you can do this right from your seat. You can use my words, but this is a decision from your heart to God to say hey, I surrender. I believe in Jesus and I want to follow you. That's salvation. And you can start this legacy of faith in your own life. I didn't come from a family of faith. I didn't go to church till I was like 14. And even then, it took a while for God to really start to do some things. But now, my family will have a legacy of faith moving forward. And God used that moment and used that church to impact my mom, my dad, my brother. Like, my brother is also shepherding students at another church in Orlando. How crazy is God, right? That's the legacy that you can start to build. And you can do it starting this morning. So if everyone will bow your heads and close your eyes with me, we'll pray. And if you're ready to cross that line of faith, this is your moment. Don't wait. Just talk to God right from where you're at, and you can use my words. God, I'm ready. I believe in your Son, Jesus. I know that I need forgiveness for my sins, and I choose to put my faith and my trust and my hope in you. And I choose to follow you for the rest of my life. God, help me to walk in your ways and walk in your promises. God, for the rest of us, Lord, for the parents in the room, God, would you just bless them? Bless them beyond their wildest dreams. Would you start to bless their families and change those hard places? God, would you give them rest and encouragement and just let them know how awesome they are? God, would you help us to begin to build these lasting legacies of faith and give our kids the one thing that truly matters, and that is you. God, for the rest of us, would you help us to engage with the kids that God has put around us? Would you help us to use what we have, to leverage it, to impact and help build a legacy of faith? God, I thank you for everything that you've done, everything that you are doing, and everything that you are going to do. And we just pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. So this morning, now we get a chance to do one of my favorite things, which is worship God. And our first song this morning is called "Firm Foundation." And it's a whole song about what we've been talking about. The foundation of your life. When it's Jesus, there is nothing that can shake you. So if you all would stand with me and be prepared to just lift your voices in worship.
Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaken. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus. He's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. He won't. I've still got joy in chaos. I've got peace that makes no sense. So I won't be going 'cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. Rain came and wind blew. My house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Rain came and wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Church, can you join me? Rain came and wind blew, but my house was raised on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. I'm gonna make it through, 'cause I'm standing strong on you. I'm gonna make it through, 'cause my house is built on you. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand, when everything around me is shaken. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He
Amen, amen. That's our prayer for you guys, that Christ will be the foundation. He'll be the foundation of your families. He'll be the foundation of your kids, and something that you can build on for generations to come. Hey, thank you so much for joining us this morning, man. If you are already partnered with us through your faithful giving, I just want to thank you and say, like, what we do in family ministries is sponsored by you guys. Like, thank you so much for investing in us and investing in kids that way. If you haven't begun to partner with us that way, we would love for you to be able to do that. We have 3 easy ways. You can go to kensingtonorlando.org/giving. You do it online. We have the MyWell Giving app where you can select Kensington as your giving church. Or if you want to drop it off at the door, we got some boxes on the doorway on your way out. And then last but not least, I would love to just invite you back next week, man. Summer is upon us. School is ending. Next week's the last week of school. And we just want you guys to have an amazing summer where you build some amazing memories together as a family. And so we want you to come back next week, and we'll talk about all about how to do that. Thank you guys so much. Love y'all. Have a good week.